What does that mean? That I must fight 7 men?
Do not play the fool. It must be 7 against 7.
You must find 6 other knights to fight beside you.
But I have no one else.
Well, if the cause is just, good men will fight for it. If not, it will be because you were guilty.
Welcome to... Hold on, I gotta pick up your nutshells here. Welcome to the official Game of Thrones podcast, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I am Jason Concepcion.
I'm Greta Johnson, and for the first time in 100 years, we're gonna see a trial of 7, I guess.
We are discussing the 4th episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, titled 7, written by Aziza Barnes and Annie Julia Wyman, and directed by Sarah Adina Smith.
Yes, and our guest today is Sarah Adina Smith, so it's gonna be really fun to unpack this one.
You may be wise to run.
Want to kill me if I run?
Want to kill you anyway.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the episode yet, you definitely should watch it. But in case you need a refresher, Jason, can you give us a little recap?
We open with Dunk in the dungeon, his life on the line. Egg comes to apologize, but Dunk is really not willing to hear it. Later, Baylor calls him to a meeting and feels out Dunk, wants to know, how good a fighter are you, because you're probably going to have to fight in a trial by combat. Later, there's a meeting with Arion where Arion is crushing nuts. Maekar is there. Crown Prince Baylor is there. And Arion says, well, I don't want to do a trial by combat. I would like to do this very, very random and old kind of trial by combat that hasn't been done in 100 plus years. It's a trial of 7, meaning, Duncan, you have to get 6 champions to fight by your side. And if you don't, you lose and I win and you're guilty.
Womp womp.
Womp, womp, womp. Well, Duncan has to go out and find a team. Shockingly, it seems like it's going pretty well. Stefan Fossaway immediately signs up. It looks like he's getting a nice little team together. But then, in true wrestling style, Stefan Fossaway, it turns out, flips. He goes over to the other side because Arion has promised him a lordship and a castle, and now Dunk is even further in the hole, and he needs 2 other knights to fight for him. So here comes game day. Dunk rides out to the middle of the arena. He makes a big speech saying, hey, is anybody,
motherfuckers.
anybody going to fight with me? I need somebody to fight with me. And it looks like it's not going to happen until Crown Prince Baylor rides into the arena to the rescue of Dunk. And we're on to the next episode.
And the crowd goes wild.
And the crowd goes wild.
Oh my gosh. So much happens in this episode. Lots to unpack. I'm actually really curious to hear what your thoughts are about the whole trial by 7 thing. Well, how does Arion know about this, for one? He's not a hella bookish guy.
Although, listen, we've seen that he has a lot of pride in his house.
That's
and
true.
He's the type of person who feels that potentially the best days of the Targaryens and the realm are behind it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it does not surprise me that he's looking to the past for ways to make the future better. At the same time, it's also clearly a dodge so that he does not have to fight Dunk one-on-one,
Yes.
as his father calls out in that meeting. He's like, are you
Yes.
being a coward right now? What's going on? Which Arion doesn't care about. What did you think about this whole very lawyerly kind of move from Arion?
I think I'm sort of thinking of him as a Joffrey, which is maybe not fair because I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see.
A little less insane, but certainly not.
Well, and just the impulsiveness of it,
yes.
Then is how much forethought are you putting into anything is often a question I have with, royals who can get away with all kinds of stuff.
I also think it's clear that he does not think that Dunk has any chance of getting 6 people to stand next to him.
Clearly, yes.
And so he's thinking, we're not even going to do this.
Right.
We're going to chop off your hand and foot, and then that's it. And I'm not even going to get my armor dirty. So.
Okay, well, let's start from the beginning. I think
Yeah.
we should listen to a clip of Dunk when he's in the dungeon.
I didn't
What?
think I was doing anything wrong.
Of course you did. That's why you lied. Dry your eyes.
I was just so disappointed when I couldn't go to the
Oh, we
tournament.
can't have the little prince being disappointed now, can we?
Just wanted to be somebody's squire, sir.
You'd have served a donkey were it squireless.
Sorry, sir. Cheerio.
Oh, this episode is so full of really devastating conversations like that one.
It's quite bracing to see Egg, in this emotional state. He feels worse than Dunk in this moment.
I think so, yes. But I mean, Dunk does feel so betrayed.
He really
clearly.
does.
And I think, that line, you would have squared a donkey. Because then I think what's going through Dunk's head is like, oh, you didn't care about me at all.
Right.
It wasn't about me at all.
It wasn't about me. It was about anybody that would take you on.
Exactly, yes.
I like that Dunk also is an important conversation, but guy's got to eat. He's piling it in. He's got to get it in.
Yes.
This is a guy who's not going to pass up any opportunity to eat.
Jason, just a little fact check here.
Yeah.
We know Egg's a Targ.
Yeah.
Where in the line of succession is he at this point?
Oh my God. Not worth talking about.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Like,
Okay.
yes.
His
like,
uncle's next
deep.
in line.
Now, listen, things happen with the Targaryens, but
he has two older brothers.
right. There's Crown Prince Baelor who has a son, Valar.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So it would go that way.
Yeah.
And then even with Prince Maekar, there's two sons ahead of him. Aerion, Daeron the Drunken, and then
Right. So he's a ways down.
yes, he's quite a ways down, and in the wrong branch.
Do you think Egg thought that he was just free from the Targaryens for the rest of his life?
It's very much, he's a precocious and smart kid, but he is just a kid. And yes, I think he thought in some kind of daydream way, like, oh, I can just keep doing this.
We can just hang out. in
Yeah, we can
Ashford
just
and
hang out,
I'll
and no
marry
one's
the
ever.
second most beautiful woman.
That's it. And I'll keep
Yeah.
shaving my head, and no one will ever find out. And this is great.
Yeah.
And also, when to your point, he didn't think it through. He had no end game other than find someone, potentially a donkey, to squire for, and then profit. Like there was no other, there was no off ramp, there was no other thing.
Right.
It was just that. And he's coming to terms now with the true weight of his lie and the decision he made. And I think Egg is now realizing that he's going to have, to mix metaphors, like a lot of free passes to try things, to do things, to lie, to have little adventures, while someone like Dunk is going to have his one life that he can risk. And that's it. Let's talk about that scene where Baelor tells Dunk about the crimes that he has to answer for. Let's listen to that.
Aerion calls it a veiled attack on House Targaryen, an incitement to revolt.
Do you believe that, Your Grace?
One truth is beyond dispute. You laid hands upon the blood of the dragon.
The girl's finger was snapped in half.
No matter the cause, it is never wise to strike a king's grandson.
Would you not have done the same?
I might have. But I am a prince of the realm, not a hedge knight.
Don't all knights make the same oath?
What do you think the book was that Baelor was like pulling down to
that's
we'll
a
just
fun
like flip through a book right now.
Looking for pictures.
Looking for Trial of Seven last time. This is a very interesting conversation
It really
because on the one hand, you've got the Dunk who is so strident in that he's in the right here. And then you've got Baelor who has a much bigger picture to try and
Yes.
deal with. What did you think of this scene?
I think it also shows the integrity that Baelor has because so many of the people in charge that we see in this world don't really zoom out.
Yeah.
They're so ego driven that, once they're offended, it's game over.
Yeah.
But it does really feel like Baelor is able to look at things from a broader perspective and explain things to Dunk in a way that he clearly needs to hear because he doesn't.
Yeah, that's right.
I feel like he's this is also the scene where he finally realizes how he's in so much trouble, even though he just thought he was doing the right thing.
Aerion has a point in that it does not take a huge leap of imagination to see how this could read as, an attack on
Treason.
on
You
House
mean the
Targaryen,
puppet show?
the puppet show.
Yeah.
And Baelor, I think to his credit, again, as we talk about what a canny, clever man he is,
Mhm.
I think he sees that Arian's way out of a situation like this is to, suppress dissent, ruthlessly crack down, like execute the people who did it, break the fingers of the puppet show people. Whereas Baelor is thinking, okay, we have to respond to the fact that people feel like they can criticize us this way and maybe feel that they're weak, but we can't do it in a way where everybody gets mad at us. We have to find a middle ground somehow,
Mhm.
a more just seeming ground. And I think
Mhm.
he's searching for that here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, it's so, I mean, the conversation that they have around what it means to be a knight
Yeah.
is here, right? And Dunk saying, I thought I was just doing the right thing. And it's very clear here that he's finally realizing how untouchable this class of people is.
Yes.
And yeah, they can get away with pretty much anything, even when it is clearly not the right thing.
Yeah. So to Baylor's point, he might have done something, but he's also the crown prince. and
Exactly. He can.
He can do that.
Right.
And then we go to the trial.
Yes. Let's play a clip of Arion suggesting
I love
the
this.
trial of 7.
Trial by combat. That is my right.
I refuse.
You cannot refuse.
Any knight accused of a crime has the right to demand as such, unless you withdraw your claim.
A trial of 7.
That is my right, I do believe.
What the fuck is a trial of 7?
Oh my God. Like, I love how often people are just being like, what the fuck?
Like, what?
So, Jason, what the fuck is a trial by 7?
It's trial of combat, but with a team, 7 on 7, and
Because of the 7 gods, right?
yes, the 7 gods, each representing the 7 gods, and it went out of style because it is so over the top and destructive. Like, now you're wasting 14 people rather than just 2.
It does seem.
Yes,
It's just carnage.
It's carnage and it's too much. Like, just have the 2 contestants fight it out. You don't need 7 people.
Well, and so, like, how do you win a trial by 7? Like, is it
Whoever's
whoever
standing.
has the most people at the end, or is it still like our main 2 people?
Yes, whoever is basically whatever team is standing at the end, or if the accuser takes back their claim
Okay.
because they are, basically like in UFC, if you tap, if
Right,
you
if he
are
calls
beaten
mercy.
so comprehensively that you say, you
Okay.
know what, I take back my claim, then the other side wins. And of course, if the accuser beats the accused senseless, they win.
Sure. Okay, great. Should we draft what our trial by 7 teams would look
In
like?
real life with characters or with like real life people?
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking Thrones characters.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go. Do I have to fight? Do we have to fight? That's the question. I guess we do, right?
We probably do. Can we be on the same team and just pick 5 other people together?
Yes, but they better be good because it's gonna be 5 on 7.
Because we're so worthless.
Because we're gonna be hiding in the back.
That's a good call. Brienne, I think would be a good one.
Sure. I would just go like Brienne, the Mountain.
Yeah, the Mountain.
The Hound.
Good. The Hound is good. Yes, great.
Jamie
Jamie
Lannister with a hand.
Yes, with 2 hands.
With 2 hands. Yes, that's what I mean. And people who died so Ned Stark I'd put in there. as well.
Ned Stark is good. Yeah, I think Arya.
So that's
too.
5.
But yeah,
I don't know
like
if
that. I like
Arya.
that
I don't know
5.
if this is Arya's type of.
That's true.
thing.
She's a little guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
but I would put those, especially with the Mountain and the Hound. It's like
I
just
mean, yeah,
stand
you're just
behind
good to
them.
go.
Yeah.
I think this is a really fun question, though. Like, I would
I
love to
agree.
know what, super fans would think of this one.
I think that's a great idea. Leave us a comment, tag us on socials, and let us know who you would draft for your trial of 7. And this all leads to Dunk having to put a team together.
Mm-hmm.
And fortunately, Stefan Fossaway, shockingly,
It's a nice
offers
start,
himself
right?
up. Yeah. Let's listen to that clip.
Us Fossaways, we were here long before these others come to our shores. And our warrant will be here long after they are gone. Who else fights with us?
I know no one else.
I'm sure we can find 5 more good men who wish singers to make them immortal. I do not know why tragedy so oft follows after honourable men. But when I find myself without the answer is always more glory. Lucky for you, I have some friends. Sir Lionel, Lord Lannister, Sir Otho.
They won't be happy at being woken.
Then they'll fight like pestered badgers. You shan't die under my watch, sir.
Okay. Well, I believe him.
It's interesting in retrospect, his line about like, yeah, I just need more glory, man. It's like, oh, yeah.
The slight miscalculation of Arion was that the rareness of this event calls to the ambitions of a certain type of lord.
Yeah.
I wonder, do you think Stefan was telling the truth here? Like, we know he flips, but
That's a good question. I think so. I think he doesn't give a shit about the Targaryens, actually. I think he's looking out for himself.
I completely agree.
And so, like, he's just trying to get the best deal out of it.
Yeah, I think he, to quote Michael Clayton, he's not the guy you kill, he's the guy you buy. And Arion, wisely buys him off at the end, because this is a guy who's looking for glory, is looking for a name, is looking for a castle on the hill, and any shortcut that he can take to get there, he will take it.
Speaking of guys who hate Targaryens, we also get to see more of Darren the Drunken. He's clearly having a bad day, huh?
You know what? Like, against my better judgment, I kind of like Darren. He's in a bad situation.
He does seem fairly sympathetic for being one of these Targaryen brothers.
Yeah, he's quite open about the fact that, like, I'm drinking to deal with this.
Right.
And it's a bad situation. And this is the only thing that he knows how to do. And so weirdly, I weirdly I'm not mad at him. What do you make of his dream? Targaryens do have the gift of prophecy now.
Yeah, I think we gotta take it seriously. I don't know that Dunk would, though.
It's a tough messenger.
That's a great way of putting it. That's a very good way of putting it.
Yeah, it's certainly not on like the Helena level or the Danis the Dreamer from the pages of history level.
Well, what's interesting about it is that it's way less cryptic than Helena.
It seems fairly straightforward.
Yeah. For better or for worse, I'm not sure. It seems like he thinks he knows what's going to happen, but also he's quite drunk.
He is very drunk all the time. It's also so touching that, Egg is going to squire for Dunk through this. Now, one might argue that Egg is not really risking anything here other than Arion's wrath later, right?
Yeah, that is an interesting question, because I think you're right. I mean, I think partly what we're seeing again and again, especially in this episode, is the fact that these folks are just untouched. They don't have to suffer consequences. But I think it does speak to Egg's loyalty to Dunk, which is really sweet. I mean, it's consistently a sweet relationship, and I think it kind of makes me think that it's like Egg's form of apology to Dunk as well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because he knows he let Dunk down, but he wants to be really clear that, like, he still wants to help and be there.
I wonder, from the perspective of the small folk, for any of the attendees at the tournament, this is coming in the wake of the first Blackfire Rebellion. There was already the Dance of Dragons Civil War, and now you're seeing Targaryens on either side of a minor dispute. But still, people must be watching this thinking they're going to tear each other apart.
This family's a mess.
This family's an absolute mess. And given the slightest opportunity, they will be at each other's necks.
Yeah.
Even the little kids.
Even the kids. Yeah.
Now we got to get our team together. We got to line them up.
Yep. Here's our squad. Let's listen to a clip of that.
Sirs, I am in your debt.
The debt is Arian's, and we mean to collect it.
I heard your leg was broken.
You heard true. My leg is broken. I cannot walk. So long as I can sit on a horse, I can fight.
Sir Robin Adai, the king's faithful servant. But when the crown goes against the gods, Sir Robin goes against the crown.
I always knew you meant trouble.
It's a ragtag bunch.
Ragtag bunch, but you like what you see.
Yeah.
One guy has a broken leg, okay, but I think if, obviously is going to be very determined after Arian cheated him
Yep.
during the tournament. You've
Yeah.
got Riesling, who, why mail over the eye that's already injured?
We don't know what's back there, man.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Okay.
You probably need some extra layers.
Right.
There. So yeah, let's run through our 7 just to be very
Yes.
clear about where we are at this moment in time.
So, well, it's initially 6. We're still
Right.
We're still looking for that other one. It's
yes.
Dunk,
Yep.
Lionel Leo Baratheon,
Yep.
Steph Fossaway,
Yep.
Robin Riesling,
Eye patch guy.
Eye Patch Guy,
Yep.
Humphrey Harding, the broken leg
guy.
of the broken leg,
Uh-huh.
and then the other Humphrey,
Another
Humphrey Beesbury.
Yep. Okay.
So
Great.
I'm liking what I'm seeing right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, we get a shakeup in the squad when Stefan Vossaway is traded from Team Dunk to Team Arian in the middle of the season.
Dick move, bro.
Come on, bro. But of course, Stefan's cousin Raymond steps up. The question, though, is he ready to be a knight? And who will knight him? Dunk hesitates here, and it's very
Yes.
interesting. Why do you think he hesitates?
I don't know. I mean, we have not seen any flashbacks of Dunk being knighted, notably.
Oh, we're gonna dig into this can of worms.
So yeah, that's a can of worms to dig into. But I mean, I think regardless, Dunk always, I think he's got some imposter syndrome stuff going on.
For sure.
And, he hasn't done attorney. He wears a belt made of rope. Like, I think maybe he just doesn't think he has the proper authority to knight someone at this point in his own knightly journey.
I think it's in part that. I think it's in part that he doesn't want to be responsible for what happens to Raymond.
That also is a very good point.
We haven't really, the only thing we've seen of Raymond fighting, and to be fair, we haven't seen Dunk do anything.
Right.
The only thing we've seen of Raymond is him, again, getting slapped around by his cousin.
Yes. And
not
Dunk
exactly
standing up for him.
Yeah,
Right.
not a confidence builder.
No.
And
that's
so I get why Dunk stays his hand and is worried about it. Although
That's a good
you bring
point.
up a good point
About Dunk's knighthood.
Dunk's, we haven't seen it now.
Right.
Ira Parker, our showrunner and show creator, has asked, I think, an important question, which is, does it matter? And I think on a certain level it doesn't, because Dunk embodies the spirit of noble
Right.
knighthood.
It's about what's in your heart.
At the same time, not the fact that we haven't seen it in flashback yet.
Yeah.
We're meant to wonder about it.
Yeah, well, and he does definitely seem pretty self-appointed in a lot of ways, right? The way he sort of has to muster being like, "I'm Sir Dunk the Tall."
Now Dunk needing manpower,
Yep.
his team is short and they're not going to be
Yep.
able to compete. They could maybe compete one man down, although they would not, Arian would not let them do it.
Yeah.
But certainly they can't do it 2 down.
Well, and do you think it's fair to say that at this point Dunk would take anyone?
I mean, he's literally saying, anybody out there feel like they want to strap it up and get in here?
Anyone.
Let's listen to that speech.
Who will stand and fight with me?
Perfect music drop.
Do you have goosebumps?
Yeah, perfect.
God damn, every time.
Yeah, it was good. Were you surprised by not just the fart joke, but the I mean, that rip carried. He's got to be
no shame
30 yards away from the guy.
Yeah.
Whole arena heard it. That's hard to do. Through the furs and leather, it didn't. It rang out like a bell.
Somehow I did not think we were going to talk about fart sound design today.
We had to. And it happened. Something interesting occurred to me when I was rewatching
On a more serious note?
On a more serious note. I mean, the speech by Dunk and his rage at that, at the reaction.
Furious.
He gets so mad.
Yes.
Like, really, this is a joke to you?
Yeah.
It spurs him to call out even more stridently for anybody who's a real knight. At the same time, Baylor's getting ready. He's getting armored up.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable to assume he didn't hear much of, if any of the speech, because he's off in his tent with his attendants getting geared up.
I think that's
so accurate. Clearly he had made this decision. What do you think it was that turned him?
Doing the right thing. I think he sees it's not black or white for him, but I think he knows that this is the right thing to do. And he can afford to make that risk.
Yeah, and as we were saying, I think he sees that though the crowd is muted and though there are some willing to joke at Dunk's expense, that I think he senses that, you know what, I think the people like Dunk. Not just that he's right. Like, I think it would look really bad for us if Dunk loses or if one of us doesn't fight for him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think he makes a calculated political decision to join up.
Well, I'm really excited for this interview coming up because we are talking to Sarah Adina Smith today, who directed this episode and has a lot of really nice insights about all sorts of things that happen in this one. Let's hear that interview. We are so excited to have with us Sarah Adina Smith. Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time today.
I'm excited to be here. It's going to be fun.
This is really a crossroads episode. We meet Dunk at his absolute lowest. He's realized he's run afoul of the Targaryens. He's in the dungeon. His life is on the line. Talk to us about your approach this episode.
Dunk has had a hard time.
Yes.
Things have not gone as planned.
No.
And in truth, he didn't have that great of a plan to begin with.
No.
No. But I wanted to open episode 4 where it was just so serendipitous. The window in the prison cell reminded me of a crown, and I thought there was something so sort of beautiful and poetic about this, like framing Dunk as if he were king, but more like a fool, really, than a true king. Someone playing at being powerful.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite appropriate. And not only has he been totally humbled by foolishly seeking out some type of fortune in this rough world and following his ambition and being brought so low, but also the person who he's come to sort of love and trust the most, the one person really in his life now that Sir Arlen is gone, is Egg, and he feels really betrayed. So it also, I really wanted to make sure that he felt incredibly alone. And of all the episodes I worked on, this one I think is the most emotionally driven, and I really wanted to feel like we were in Dunk's head and that this episode should represent his dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I love that scene in the cell when he confronts Egg about lying, because there is, to your point, he's so angry and deceived and he doesn't know if he can trust this kid anymore.
He really felt like he had found someone like him when he met Egg, someone who came from Flea Bottom, who came from nothing, and he came to feel like kind of the father figure for Egg that he wished he had, perhaps. Yeah. And so he let down his guard and really began to trust and, dare I say, start to love Egg.
Yeah.
And so when he found out that he was in fact lying to him this whole time, it just makes Dunk feel like he truly has no one.
Dexter imbues Egg with so much regret and real shame and guilt. Talk to us about working with him. He's so good.
Yeah. Dexter is a phenomenal young actor. And it was really, working on this series was just such a delicious pleasure. But of the things I enjoyed most, perhaps, it was watching Dexter bloom into an actor in his own right, really like holding court with all the adult actors, and giving them a run for their money.
Yeah.
And in this scene in particular, I mean, I think we shot this on my last day, the scene between Dunk and Egg in the cell. And by that point, we had really developed a language together. And I just reminded Dexter to simplify and trust his instincts, and that he's already so compelling, and he's already so expressive. He doesn't have to sort of try to express anything. And I love how elegant and simply he played this scene.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is like the underdog nature of Dunk's story. I feel like you're really getting that one in this episode in particular, just because he has to like assemble his very scrappy squad.
Yes. Yeah, he's like the under of all the underdogs, and like in the episode we added a rat who we named Shanice in that opening scene, because we were like, that's his only friend left.
Yeah.
Is Shanice the rat.
Yeah.
Yes. And then, he asks for trial by combat, but then it is one-upped by Arian asking for trial of 7, and at that point it's puts in even more stark relief that he has no one to stand with him. Who will stand for this man?
Yeah. Arian is such a wonderful villain, and particularly in this episode, because when Dunk is asking for the trial and Arian comes back with, well, what about this 100-year-old thing that nobody's done in a long time? That there's a shamelessness to him in which he understands that what he's doing is raising the bar to a level that Dunk probably will not be able to reach. But he also doesn't care that anybody thinks. His dad is sitting there going, are you being a coward? Like, why don't you just fight him? He's like, no, I want to do it. It's my right. I'm going to do it. Talk to us about working that scene. It's so juicy.
Yes. I mean, and credit to Ira, who wrote in the fact that Arian is crushing walnuts the entire time. So even as you're having, again, that's the tone of the show, even as though you're having this sort of life and death conversation and the stakes couldn't be higher for Dunk. Meanwhile, this snobby little rich kid needs his snack. And yeah, I mean, we played a lot with this scene to hit the right tone. I think that Arian is a guy who has had everything handed to him, and more than anything, he just wants to be amused by life. And I think he calls for a trial of 7 because that could be fun.
Yeah.
That could be entertaining for him. And then Dunk could be even more humiliated.
Yeah.
Do you think Arian has any redeeming qualities?
I mean, he's got great cheekbones and jawline and is a great fighter. If I'm going to give Arian some credit, I will say he has zealous family pride.
True.
And a belief in the power of the dragon. And there's something to that, in a way. His other family members have perhaps maybe given up is too strong of a word, but have let some of that go, that hubris go. Whereas I think Arian has a lot of passion and belief in the power of the dragon.
I would love to hear what it was like to film Dunk's speech. I mean, it's such a big emotional moment. I mean, also, dude is on a horse.
Dude, it was so fucking great to film. Peter, first of all, is an awesome horseman.
Really?
P.S. Thank God, otherwise it'd be a giant pain in my ass. But Peter's very comfortable with the horse, which was awesome, because then we could give him a bit more free rein than we might with blocking. And we had a camera on a crane and could sort of take his lead as we were tracking him. But I remember, gosh, it was either take 3 or take 4. And I got chills, and I turned to whoever's with me at the monitor at that moment and said, oh, I think I just witnessed the birth of a movie star.
Wow.
This guy has this thing in him. And it felt like he was, that speech came straight from his guts. and from his bones. I was just, yeah, I mean, I feel like I had very little to do with it. I just got to have the pleasure of witnessing it that day.
Yeah. Of one of my favorite things about this episode is the way the end of it cuts to the Game of Thrones theme in a way that, you know, it had been subverted before that in the series.
We finally get our full.
And then you finally get the full one, and coming off of the speech, it's a rush. Tell us about the choice to do that.
It is. I can't take credit for that choice
No,
in particular, but I will say anytime I felt, there were a couple moments, especially in episode 4, where truly my crew was probably so annoyed with me because anytime something got really good, I would just be at the monitor going, ba, 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 ba. And there's a moment when he's talking with Baylor and he is like, how good of a knight are you? And we're like, shh. And I was like, oh, yes, there he is. And then after that speech, and then at the end, there are a couple moments of that where you feel that is why we're all addicted to Game of Thrones. This moment where the little guy stands up for what's right and he becomes the hero we all crave.
Yeah. What is it like to watch this stuff come alive, even for a moment on your little Video Village screen?
I have the best job in the world. Please don't tell anybody. I don't want anyone to take my job.
Yeah.
It's amazing because I feel like I get to be the very first audience for this. And you know when something's right, when you just get lost in watching it the way an audience member would and get carried away. Like sometimes something's so good I'll forget to call cut. And I'm like, all right, that's my job. But that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Because if it's hypnotizing me, then it has a chance of reaching other people too.
Well, especially given how involved you are, like even before filming, right? It's like, you know the script, you've talked to the actors, like you've already, you know what's going to happen.
I do. There's, and it's a meticulous amount of planning that goes into everything that lands on screen. And at the same time, if I'm doing my job right, I am creating an environment that is ripe and ready to take advantage of the day, what the day might offer us, mistakes and surprises. So like a good example of that, there's one of my favorite shots in episode 4 is during the knighting sequence, the knighting of Raymond. And the camera's right above Dunk on his horse and he looks straight up. And that shot just happened because we were repositioning the crane and Peter just happened to be looking up at the camera. I was like, oh God, that's a shot I want right now. So you have to kind of stay aware and stay open to whatever gifts the universe might give you that day.
When you were first looking at these scripts, were there things that jumped out at you where you thought, okay, we're going to have to approach this in a specific way, or this, I'm going to have to be ready to be fluid when we're approaching this scene?
Episode 4 was actually the one that worried me the most and was the hardest in a way, because it's actually kind of a quiet, contemplative episode.
Yeah.
There's not actually that much action going on. It's so much of it is psychological.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to make sure that I was really supporting the psychological point of view throughout the episode and that we really felt like we were in Peter's shoes. And I really, I thought of it as the dark night of the soul. What would you do if you were essentially sentenced to death and had one more night to live? That was what Peter and I talked about a lot. And when I talked about with Fede, my DP, as we were planning our shots, is how to make it feel like Dunk is a dead man walking. And what are the things he's going through on this last night?
Well, and it is such a tonal shift, too.
Yes.
You mentioned just like the emotional heft of it all. Like leading up to that, it's pretty funny. And then it's like a gut punch.
Yes. I was really so moved. The scene where Dunk gets his shield from Steely Pate.
Yeah.
I think we had I want to say we had an hour and a half or 2 hours to shoot that. And bless his heart, Tom, our production designer, who's a total genius, came up to me several times in pre-production. And he was like, Steely Pate's wagon, is it going to be big enough for you? And I was like, yeah, no problem. It's going to be great. I went in there, walked around with Fede. We were both like, no problem. And then we got there on the day and we were like, all right, these are big boys. Steely Pate and
Steely
Dunk are both big, And so that space got really small really fast. And I think with our with our cameras in there. It was basically, there was only room for me, and I became like, you know, makeup assistant slash script supervisor. It was just sort of like very, very tight, cramped quarters. But in a way, it actually, I think, created such a wonderful intimacy for that emotional scene.
My favorite part of that scene is when they're talking about the tree, and he's like, but the tree is like dying. It's like not. And then Steely Pate's, no. The leaves are in bloom.
It's alive,
It's
man.
alive, man. And that it swings him. Talk to us about that moment, because I loved it so much.
Yeah. Again, like, we open episode 4 and Dunk is alone in the world. And that moment with Steely Pate feels like a moment where he really has a compadre again for a moment.
Yeah.
It's the first time in a long time where I think Dunk feels safe, even if it's only for a few minutes, and that he allows himself a moment of vulnerability.
Yeah.
I really love that scene too, but for a totally different reason. And it's right at the end of that where Dunk asks him how much he owes him. And he just says like, oh, just a cuppa. And I think that's such a sweet moment too, because it's, you know, here he is. Dunk has been like trying to figure out how to make his way in this world with pretty much nothing. And he hasn't been able to do it. And here's someone who understands where he's coming from and how hard he's working and how many odds are against him. And is like, let me just help you.
Yeah.
Which I think, especially in this world, is so rare.
Yeah.
Yeah, the power of a small kindness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's really special. And it's sweet to see it here.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. And I have to believe that the painting Tansel made also had something to do with that. Where I imagine, you know, everyone else's shields, all these knights have such fancy, the equivalent of the Ferraris and the Porsches.
Yeah.
And then here's this really humble, hand-painted scene with this quiet message of hope.
Yeah.
And I think that moves Steely too. And it might be also part of the reason why he wants to help him.
Well, one thing we've been asking everybody is your knight name. What would your knight name be? Like, Sir Duncan.
Great reaction.
Like,
I'm glad you're
perfect
excited
reaction.
about this.
It's like Sir Duncan the Tall.
Sir
Sarah
the Fearless.
I like it.
I think maybe felt accurate to this because I do feel like I get, as an artist, most excited and sort of turned on by impossible challenges. And there was a lot that we were facing on this shoot. And I never went to film school. I don't know everything about, you know, every little detail about everything, but the one thing I have going for me is that I'll just get in there and give it my all. And I felt, I just realized I feel like a little like Dunk in that respect, you know. I just am like probably a little foolish, but willing to just go in there and do my damn best. And so yeah, maybe I would do that.
Sarah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
Oh, man. What a great conversation.
That was really fun. I think my favorite part was when Sarah realized that she was more like Dunk than she thought she was.
Yeah.
Like in her own personal trajectory. I thought that was just delightful.
Now it is time to crown the knight who is most valuable for this episode, a.k.a. the most valuable knight. Greta? Who is your most valuable knight?
It's our guy, Humphrey Harding.
Oh!
Dude can't walk, but
I like it.
He can ride a fucking horse.
It's the Jordan
and he
flu
is
game.
Fired up.
Yeah.
Yes, it is the Jordan. Yes, like he's gonna show up. You know,
I like it.
Like that's knightly as fuck.
It is. And listen, the guy is got to be mad. He is pissed.
Yes.
I love that. I'm gonna go with Crown Prince Baylor. Like
good one.
It's a
yes.
It's a big moment.
Game changer.
From a big figure, and I think he read the board and thought, I should do this, and I will do this.
Yeah.
And you got to hand it to him. I love the look he gives Dunk when he takes off his helmet and is like,
Sup?
Don't get any ideas that this is because I like you.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. It's great.
Well, that's it for this episode. The 5th episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms comes out next Sunday on HBO and HBO Max. And then join us right afterwards to break it all down.
I think some stuff's gonna go down.
I think so too.
If you like what you are hearing and watching, don't forget to leave a rating and review on your podcast player of choice. You can find us on the Game of Thrones social media handles, and you can also watch us on HBO Max. Yes, you can watch us on HBO Max. You can follow me on Instagram at Greta M. Johnson. I have a podcast called Happy to Be Here, and I have a newsletter on Substack called Gretagram.
You can find me at NETWTRK on Instagram and listen to my podcast, X-Ray Vision, wherever you get your podcasts. The official Game of Thrones podcast, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, is produced by HBO in collaboration with Same Boat Studios. This podcast is hosted by Greta Johnson
and Jason Concepcion, who also produces the show. Our executive producers for Same Boat Studios are Gabrielle Lewis and Barry Finkel. Our senior producer is Ben Goldberg. This show is mixed by Hannes Brown, and our video editor is Stefano Sanchez, and our digital content producer is In-Sung Huang.
Special thanks to Michael Gluckstad, Allison Cohen-Sorokach, and Kenya Reyes from the HBO Max podcast team.
Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week when Dunk and his team of knights ride into battle.
But the Dragon House will not look kindly on those who oppose them.
Dragon House. Where are the dragons, Sir Duncan?